Hello, hello. We got another Healer's Corner session. So, Maria, you actually brought this topic up, and it was kind of spurred on with a conversation you had with one of my employees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miss Darlene, if you're there.
I'm sure she will be soon because she's like, ooh, she's like, this is going to be a long one. She's like, because I can think of at least 15 questions myself. And I'm like, you better not. You better not, ma'am. Though we do have some, important points that we wanted to pull out ahead of time about that. But I feel like it's kind of an important topic for those of us that do healing sessions, and to make sure we're not taking crap home, that we're not taking on the physical aspects. So we're going to talk about the attachments that come with doing healing. And Maria, since you were the one who suggested this, explain what you're meaning by attachments. In are they spiritual? Are they physical? Are they a spirit manifestation? Like, what do you mean in attach?
Well, attachment, it could be any of those things. Like spiritual, if a client of yours had picked up an attachment, and if you're not properly trained on how to dispose it or how to disconnect it, it can latch onto you. And I don't think that you want to take home a new friend of yours. So it could be there are some wandering spirits in this world. We all know that. We live in such a very, very thin veil. So you could bring home that, or you can also bring home an entity that has never taken human form. So you can also bring that home with you. And some of the telltale signs is that if you feel really great all day long, and then all of a sudden after you done this healing session, you don't feel yourself. You probably may have picked up something, and it could not just spiritual, it could be their energy also. you know um as healers, we need to know our boundaries. It's not your stuff. You can do the healing, but it's not your stuff. And you can open up your heart to the client in that moment for the session, but it's still not your stuff. It's not your emotional baggage. It's not the entity that they pick up, although the entity is a little bit difficult to get rid of. You have to really practice. The I always love this saying, healer, heal thyself. So things that we are the worst ones. We don't practice. So, we're like, oh, I'll be okay, I'll be fine. And then all of a sudden you feel like crap the next day. Or you feel like something is missing. You have this thing like something is missing. I miss something, something is missing. I've had that before. I had that happen where I've like something is missing. I don't know duh. I brought home someone, or I brought home something, or I'm still attached to the to the client energetic cord. Yeah. And then another attachment that you, as a healer, is when you first, oh, you want to heal so many people, and you start to attach yourself to the results. So if you don't get the feedback from the client, you feel like, well, I didn't do anything for that client. I didn't. And I understand that because that happened to me when I was starting out. I was doing distant healings. I showed up in some of the clinics, and I was like, nobody's. I mean, I see them again in the clinic, or they contact me again, but I don't get any feedback. So I had to get to the point where, you know what, I did the best that I could, and whether they tell me or not, I know my craft. I know who I am, and I know what I can do. So that's basically, I had to kind of separate myself from, I need to know if the client is okay. I need to know if it worked for them. I need to know, the feedback. And yeah, sometimes when you're healers, that would be the last thing you might hear from your clients. They might come see you every single time that you're there, or they might come and see you, and they might not say anything to you.
I always took it as if I don't see them again, then it must have worked, right?
Mhm,
Um, and not necessarily as an ego of like, I'm so great, it works all the time. My thought is if it didn't, they would come say something,
mhm,
you know, because a lot of our culture now is people are so quick to complain for anything they have to pay for that they're not satisfied with. So
mhm.
that's where my mind goes in with that. So I kind of hope I don't hear from them. Or if I do, it's kind of like, hey, this was great. I feel like there's a little more, that could be done here or there, or, since we've healed this, I'm now
Mhm.
realizing that. And, so that's where I went with worrying about results. I wanted to ask you though, at the beginning of learning all the things, and there's many healing modalities, right?
Mhm.
I remember so many people in this industry being like, "Oh, you have to be careful. You don't want to take on the client's illness. You don't want to take on the client's problem. You don't want to." And at first I'm like, "Ooh, maybe I don't want it." But it's never crossed my mind. And I don't know if that was something that you were warned about in the beginning of your healing journey, or have you ever taken on, energetically something from the client?
When I started my healing journey, there were others in the classroom, or there were other in the workshop that already have done other modalities. And I've heard that talk, do when you get to know people, and you ask them, how they started on this journey, and then they give you the forewarning. And in the beginning, when you're new in this path, it becomes overwhelming. And yes, I had the same thing, like, "Ooh, do I really wanna go there? Because I can't even, keep up with my own. I'm gonna take someone else's too. I don't want
Mhm.
that." But, as I for some reason, when you on this path, you were like I said, I had run away from this path for so long, to the point where I had to surrender to it, and I had to embrace it. And once I embraced it, yeah, I still had that fear, but I said, "You know what? I'm in this path. I'm just gonna go see where it's gonna take me." And and in the beginning, I had a lot of those things like, "Oh, God, nobody's coming back and at least give me comments or feedback." The ego was still there. The spirit hasn't completely, stepped in yet, and the ego was still there. And there were clients I never saw them again. But I had this one lady, she came in, she didn't even know why she came to the fair, the psychic fair that we had in the store before. Her friends dragged her. So she came. She came, and she was kind of getting a little bit bored, because they were all wanting readings and waiting for the readings and whatnot. So she came and see me, and I did a healing on her, and I just picked up emotionally she was going through. She wasn't in a good place emotionally. She was just completely exhausted. Ju- So I did the healing that I thought that would help her. I never saw her again until about the second year we were in John Christ Winery, and she found me, and I could not recognize her. And she go,
Mm.
I came in February, my friends dragged me in there. We went to, the psychiatry, and I came and see you. I did not recognize her. She looked so much more relaxed and happy and younger. I was
Oh,
like, I was like, "Wow, okay."
okay. I'll take that too. Yes, please.
So I was like, she came to me and she said, "I want to thank you." She said, "It was just 15 minutes of your time, but that 15 minutes of your time did something, And she said, "I was very skeptical about this kind of stuff, but as the days and the weeks and the months, I started getting a little bit better. Started, I mean, she was just going through a lot of emotional at that time. So And that kind of like, well, if I don't see them, that was the beginning. If I don't see them, I don't hear from them, then that's good. You
Yeah,
know?
'cause yeah, people I that's how I like to think. If you don't hear from them, they're processing, things are good, they're realizing, and then if they come back months later, it's usually with success or partial success, and partial
Mhm.
meaning like they're still working through some stuff, right?
Mhm.
Um, this is a good instance of, actually doing the healing rather than creating a paying client.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Um, I think we have actually turned away people that come too often who aren't taking the time to actually do the work to go through the healing process to address all the things.
Mhm.
They're on that quick fix and they're hoping they'll tell you or you'll tell them something, a quick turnaround that's going to magically fix whatever they're going through.
Mhm.
And that's not the case, unfortunately, or nobody would have any problems ever about anything. But um I don't think though in any of the healing work that I have done on other people that I have taken on anything from them. And in doing that work, like I can see energetic imbalances. I've seen attachments of actual spirits, following them around. And they're called cause spirits, and was able to either help them cross over or be like, you don't have to, but you can't stay here. And out the door you go,
Mhm.
and helping the client make sure that they're not reattached to. But I've never had anything follow me home. I've never taken on a physical ailment. And I don't know if that's just because I come into it almost in like a clinical set that I'm like, here's the issue, here's what we are going to do to work on it. Because I don't think doctors in a hospital are like, I hope I don't take home this gangrene toe. I hope it doesn't. So, I feel like having that fear of you got to help your client, but make sure like that stress and burden, that negative energy, that fear doesn't come into you. Make sure you stay a hollow bone, which is a phrase that I kept hearing over and over. You got to be hollow. You got to let it pass through so you don't absorb it. And I'm like, well, why would that absorb into me? That's not my problem. And maybe that's just the ignorance on my part, but like that's never been an issue, but I hear it all the time.
Yeah. And I hear it. I heard it, like I said, when I started in this path, and I was like, okay. And it got to a place where I said, you know what, you do you, I do me. And I began to realize, I said, you know what, I am completely connected to everything, but I am not attached to anything. I had to embody that mindset, and I removed my ego from. And I had my higher self, my spirit step in, and all my guides step in and remove my ego from it. And it is really hard when you are beginning and you don't have any guidance. It is
Mhm.
really hard because I just didn't know what I was thrown into. I had an interest. That's the reason why I got myself in that workshop. And spirit kind of made it because I didn't pay for three of my workshops. It just came to me. So I took it as, okay, I have to be on this path because I kept on. I said, "Oh, I can't," because it's the workshop, is asking for, and then boom, it came in. Boom, it came in, and a lot of people. I love hearing stories from other healers that were, "How did you get in this path?" Well, a book hit me in the head in the library.
Mm,
I was like, "Okay," and nothing that I ever thought of. It hit me in the head. Read
mhm,
it, couldn't get my mind off of it, kept on thinking about it to the point that it's just start to consume your thoughts. That is one of the healers that I came across. I was like, wow, that is so cool, and I experienced that also. I you get onto this path, but you don't really know what you're going into. And it's kind of nice when you find other healers and you start talking, but,
mhm,
as far as be careful because of this, be careful you do you. You do you. Don't this is your path. It's not their path, and you're not going to compare your path with someone else's. Period.
I wanna say that there's at least one colleague, through the store who I would say the attachment issue, and I think that maybe the most scary, is when a client gets overly attached to the healer and starts crossing boundaries almost in a stalking type manner. And we got to a point where I had to stand in front of the shut door to put myself between the client trying to get into, the healer at that time. And that healer, like having the call for, I forget the name of the organization, but it was like psych services came out.
Mm-hmm.
They took that client because they were in such a spiral that, like, there was no reasoning, there was no like, "I'm so sorry, that person is not available. You will have to, like, schedule, you can't just," and then come to find out in talking with that healer, like, the nonstop texts, the nonstop phone calls, the nonstop emails, and then just showing up and not taking no for an answer. And honestly, I would be more worried about that than taking on some heaviness or some negative energy from my client.
Mm-hmm.
It's a physical safety and boundary. And that's where I think it's really important with healers and clients that you set good, healthy boundaries, not only for them, but for yourself. Like business hours are business hours. This
Mm-hmm.
is the one and only phone number you can call between this time and this time. If I'm going to give you texting permission, again, this time to this time, and do not expect me to immediately answer because I have a life outside of you as well. Like I have my own family, I have my own job. And, I understand that clients, when they're in the midst of what they are feeling as a crisis, they want help and they want immediate response. But, at the same time, boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and not, allowing that constant overstep because once you give in that one time,
That's
it just
it.
keeps snowballing, especially if they are mentally unwell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another good topic to kind of maybe get into is like when and how, if you had to make the suggestion of like, you need a mental health professional.
Yes, I have done that a few times with some clients, um, and I knew they were unstable. I knew they were unstable. They never text me or call me. They just showed up, and they came for a session. And I specifically said, maybe this is not the right fit for you. I think you need to go and see a psychologist, something that can help you get things squared away in a way of thinking. That
Mhm.
didn't work. She booked another session with me the following month. So at that point, I really had to set some very clear boundaries. That is that is nothing against, my abilities, but I specifically said I think you need to go and see someone, a group therapy, psychology. I do that first, then come and see me after. But do this first, because she was just in a whirlwind of depression, and I knew she needed some kind of medication. um, I don't have the credentials for that. Healers, energy healers, or any other modality of energy, we don't have the credentials to do that. We cannot diagnose, we cannot prescribe. So the best thing I did was I said, you please go and seek a group therapy, psychologist or psychiatrist that can help you with this. But yes, I had to do that to a few.
And it's important to do that,
Oh yes, it's
and
very.
and that's also keeping that ego in check and making sure that you're not the savior for all and the healer for all, like that, back to one of our first episodes, like you are not the healer for everyone and knowing what's best for the client of like, you need to talk to somebody in this field over here because you
Mhm.
and I are not achieving what needs to happen for you. Um, and then that's ultimately what ended up happening with that client that, we had to call and have taken out of the store. Another semi related, not quite the same. And I feel like this maybe happens a little more for male healers because our clientele is mostly female, right?
Mhm.
There is a growing interest in with the guys as well, but in doing field research, it is predominantly a female interested demographic. Um, Male healers like knowing when to keep those boundaries and those lines so women do not start overcrossing, either trying to turn it into something that it shouldn't be,
Mhm.
or accusations if they're displeased. And
Yeah.
not trying to blame anyone, but actually had that happen with the store and
Mhm.
had to cut off a client from seeing any of our male readers because of what she was saying and doing and proclaiming to readers about what she felt was happening. And I'm like, "Yep, no, we're not having that. And that needs to stop right now. And as a matter of fact, you shouldn't see anybody here at this point. You should go seek help, you know, elsewhere."
Yeah.
Um, and that's where those boundaries are really important, because sometimes it's the client that's attaching to you and not just anything that they're carrying in energetically or spiritually. And again, I'm more afraid of the person, physically than, anything that they're bringing in energetically or spiritually. Now, as part of your making sure that nothing is attaching or lingering or trying to follow you home, do you clean your healing space in between each client?
Yes. Yes. What I do when a client comes in, I secure the area. I bring all my guides, my ancestors, all my spirit guides, and I secure the area. Um, then I do the healing session, you know, and once that's done, I disconnect the cord for me and the client, and I also clear the space quickly. And what I do is I just blast bomb the whole entire space with electric violet. That is one of the colors that we use in pranic healing, and I just completely just bomb the whole entire place. But it's fast, it's easy for me. There isn't other ways that we can clear the area, but that for me that works. It's fast, it's easy, so it's completely cleared, you know. And I have done that with some readers with our cards. They lay out the cards, and I just go ahead and just blast it. And it happened one time in the winery when we were in the winery before. There was a reader, and someone who knew me was having a reading, and she go, "Come here, I need you." And I said, "Okay." She go, "How do you feel about these?" I go, mm. She go, "Can you do something?" I said, "Yeah, lay it down and let me just blast it." And the cards were completely clear. So
Nice.
it's not just me as a healer being with a session. It's also can be in any of the divination that you bring in. I
Mhm.
bring in a mesa with, and I have a few of my skulls there. So as I'm packing them away, I'm blasting them with electric violet. I'm just blasting them as I put them in.
I usually will have a candle or 2 somewhere in the room that I'm working in, and I create almost kind of like a field, almost
Mhm,
like a force field, if you will, to keep things contained that need to be addressed.
mhm,
And it's almost like a white light type of field to where anything that touches it gets either transmuted or crossed or, taken care of to where nothing is now running amok in the store, right?
mhm. Yeah.
Or in the apartment. Um, and that candle is really more for me in a tactile way that as I'm pulling from a person, I'm tossing it into the flame for,
Mhm,
transmutation.
mhm,
So, there's only been a handful of times where if there was some really heavy healing and not necessarily super bad or negative, just heavy, I might do a Florida water, cleansing real quick or something of the
Mhm.
sort to try and lift that space back up. And, but that cleansing is always there because I know me, I'm going to forget to do it in between each client. But if I have something preset there, it's like my own safeguard that I don't forget to do to keep, myself and the next client coming in a safe healing space, if you will. Um, because I'm
I
such a
use
quiet person.
if you notice, I've always had this bucket of water and salt.
Mhm.
And even though that was something that I have, that's something that in pranic cleaning we use a bucket of water and salt because, and I always come with that bucket whether I do pranic cleaning or not. Period. Um, that's because what happens is that even when I blast the whole entire room, I just contain it and I throw it in the bucket. So the water keeps it in and the salt breaks it up. So
Mhm.
that is mine. It's always there with me. And if I am out and about and someone I know, and I have done this before with my grandmother, we were out and about and she wasn't feeling good. So I had her sit down. I didn't have my salt bucket. I did not have my crystal, but I had my hands and I had Mother Earth, or I create a flame. I just create either a orangey flame or a green flame. Now, if I do that, I have to remind myself to put the flame out because whatever you create in spirit, it will materialize. I don't think I want to be responsible having a fire somewhere.
I mean, I can walk you through the process. Think about it now, how many years later, but
But that was a physical thing. See,
boy, was it.
yeah, that was between you and the atmosphere. It had nothing to do with someone creating a
Ooh,
fire.
that was rough, that one was rough. But you
But
make a flame and then but what do you do when you're in public and you're making the flame?
I'm making the flame on Mother Earth. And then whatever I grabbed out of her, I threw it there. And then when I was done, I thank Mother Earth for letting it, and then I pull it out. I just did my hand and I put the fire out. Sometimes I do have a hole in Mother Earth, and I ask her, please take, all these puja that I'm going to be giving to you. So I do that. Um, that is something that I picked up when we went to the shaman class. I picked that up. So I said, oh, if I don't want to do a fire and remember putting it out, I just dig a hole. I have to remember to close the hole though, because you don't want someone eventually that's going to materialize and someone falls in.
You mean sinkhole? You don't wanna start a sinkhole?
And I mean, some of you guys might go, oh yeah, that's right. It did work. It did happen to a healer. She kept on creating this little fire in her house that eventually materialized. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want that. So I always, in the beginning, I said, remember, put the fire out, remember, to put the fire out. But now it's just second nature. So,
Now, we touched on this briefly, but, setting boundaries with clients. It's kind of easy, I think, for like you guys at the store because everybody knows you're signing up either for a 15, a half hour, an hour. But if you're seeing clients like at home or how are you setting boundaries with them to make sure they don't just run amok over your personal time?
well, because in the beginning, when I started doing this, I did distant healing and I just give them a flat fee. So I don't talk to them on the phone because I'm doing a distant healing. So they have to be, and also it's actually it's a safety issue. Um, I don't want them to be cooking, operating anything, machinery, driving, because I everyone the energy will hit them differently. So they have to either be getting ready to go to bed or already going to be in bed. And
Mhm.
for me, that works. It's wonderful because I am not dealing with the ego being completely awake, thinking about, oh, is this working? Is she really doing the healing now? Da da da. So they have an option. They can tell me what times to go to bed and what days they would like this healing. Because they may have a busy day, the next day, and they don't know how the energy is going to hit them. So that I prevent that from it running amok because they're asleep. Now,
Well,
as far as someone calling me for a reading, I have had instances where a person would, I'm giving the reading, they ask the same question in a different form, thinking that it's going to be a different answer. And I said, I've answered, and I said, your time is up. I do have another appointment, whether I do or not. Um, and I want them to realize that they have to think about what was said in doing the reading.
mm,
I said, once you go over, I go, and I do encourage them to tape it. I said, if you have a recorder on your phone, please tape it. And
mhm.
I go back and listen to it again. You know, I'm hoping that they see that they have asked the same question 3, 4 times in a different form, but sometimes they may not. But I'm not going to be there to hold their hands. And, well, yeah, that's I said that. So yeah.
So given clear times that they can book or schedule,
Mhm,
I'm sure, there are a lot of readers who will use, like, on their business cards, like a Google Voice number that you can get for free, and that's the number that goes on business cards so clients don't have, like, their real personal cell phone.
mhm,
Some readers and healers, just to make that clear, readers and healers will have, like, a public name that they'll use for, like, professional pages on the socials, and then that way their private and family can be private and family, just to make sure that one, client just doesn't show up at the house, show up where you're working, Googling the name to see what they can find, and,
mhm.
sometimes there's some scary things that can happen. I watch too much crime. It's gonna be like, "Oh, no, we need to use a different name and a different phone number, and, my shipping address is the store address. You ain't getting nothing personal." But making sure setting those boundaries, and if they start to overstep, making it really clear, like,
Mhm.
you're not entitled to that just because. Now, I think one of our last points that we're like, "Yeah, let's talk about this," was knowing when to fire a client. And
Well,
obviously, if you're overstepping those boundaries, it's time to fire
yeah,
that client.
yeah, yeah. If they're overstepping the boundaries, I, I it's hard for me to tell someone, look, I'm not gonna, I just gently, you have come to me X amount of time.
Mhm.
Maybe you need to find someone else that can take it to the next step. I have no problem, there have been times where I have like, I said maybe you need to see someone who does Reiki. Maybe you need to see someone who does, a deeper hypnosis. Maybe you need someone to see a medical intuitive, even though I am, but I, yeah, medical intuitive is nice for me to know what's going on when I'm doing a healing on someone. It's not something that I advertise. It's just too great of an area.
And there's a lot of liability
Yeah.
with the medical thing, and the fact that not licensed to diagnose or prescribe, that's where you
Yeah.
gotta play it safe,
Hmm.
for yourself and the client by not making grandiose claims or just I think what you would do is like, "Hey, go see your primary in regards to,
Mhm.
these issues that you're telling me about. You're not imagining, you know,
Yeah. Or
because
I would tell them, "Humor me. When was the last time you had a physical?" "Oh, I had a client, I've never had." Now, mind you, his wife is a nurse. "Oh, I've never had a physical." I go, "And oh, my wife keeps telling me I need to go get a physical." I go, "Humor me. Just humor me. I mean, we were friends. I belong to this meditation group, and we were friends. I go, just humor me." He said, "You saw something, didn't you?" And I said, "Just humor me." Didn't think anything of it. And then he said, "Well, maybe I should go and see someone." And he started asking his wife, who would she recommend? The thing is, plant the seed. Sometimes you need just to plant the seed. So he looked around. There was one person that he wanted to go and make an appointment with. And a few days before the appointment, he literally had a heart attack. And that's what I kept on seeing around his chest. It was just completely dark. It was just completely dark. And I did not want to say that to him because, again, this is a gray area. So it just completely dark. And so she knew exactly what was happening. Didn't even wait for the ambulance. Just got him in the car, got him to the hospital. Immediately had to go for an emergency surgery. And he had a widowmaker type of heart attack. And I did not know that until later on. He said, "Thank you." He go, "I should have listened to you the day after you said that." And I go, "It happened the way it happened." But I go, "Thank you, still here. You have some things to do."
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
like that. It comes in when you do, especially when you do energy healing. I'm pretty sure it happens to you, Melissa. You might notice something, or something is really imbalanced, or something is really tight, or really, really muddy and hard, and you notice that, but you don't know exactly. So could you please call your physician and ask for get a physical?
Only a couple times. Um, I tend to stay more on the energetic side and with the healing and trauma, growing up trauma, like what got you here so we can
Mhm.
fix it. And I stay away from the medical mainly just because I'm like, I don't even know half the time what's going on with mine. So how am I going to accurately help somebody else, right? So we'll leave that to the professionals who know what they're doing, and we'll address this right here.
But
But
yeah, I mean that I do see things, and I do notice things, and I will not say anything because I don't know. First of all, I don't know where their mindset is at. I said, just humor me. Just please, when I say that's physical, maybe you need to go see your physician again. Yeah, I like the planting the seed, because probably the person had been feeling some things in their body, but didn't take the time, don't want to even see a doctor. I mean, who wants to go see the doctor? They poke and prod you. But I had planted the seed, and again, I am not attached to what their actions is. I planted the seed, and they have to proceed from there.
you already talked a little bit about you personally experiencing an attachment when you forgot to detach from the client when they
Hmm.
leave.
Hmm.
And I that's like a different point. Like I never thought of that. And when you say that you attach to the client, like that boggles me because like I don't energetically attach to them. I'm looking at them and I guess more of like in a way, I guess a cold clinical because I'm looking at them and what's going on and how to operate from there rather than attaching energetically and um working from that standpoint. But it might make it easier for you, I feel, to
Hmm.
assess what's going on for them.
Hmm. Because you need to know exactly where they're coming from. But I learned in pranic healing that the moment you walk out the door, eye contact, speech, smile. That's an energy cord that just happened.
Mhm.
So you might have this like, you this is the client, this is me, but the fact that you're interacting, there is an energy cord that's
Mm.
going on, underneath that. So I just go ahead and just cut, cut, cut. That's what I do. And whether a person comes to me for energy healing, or even when I'm doing distant healing, or on the phone or in person reading, I just cut it because there's an energy exchange that's going there. Hello.
And see, now I'm contemplating this and I'm like, am I attaching or am I just kind of sending it out there, let it ripple and land where it may? In those almost for the general public, the harmless, like that hi hello is not meant for an
Hmm.
automatic reciprocation. I don't expect anything back. Versus taking the client in, shutting the door. Now we're going to interact. When you close that door and you're having that interaction, that's like a different level of, energetic interaction. Because for me, it's like the ripples in the pond, it'll land where it's supposed to versus this is specifically
Hmm.
the the object that we are going to be working on.
The ripples in the pond get caught when I go to bed. I don't want anyone courting, and I'm supplying their energy
Ask for
every
them, Manila.
every day. I'm cutting the cords, and it's funny because one time we were out in public. My son talked me into going Black Friday, and I got the crowd of people, the energy. I was just getting hit, 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 hit. And I could not. I said, I need to get out of here. And we were in the mall, and I said, I need to get out of here. As soon as I sat down, I started cutting, 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 and my son is just embarrassed. Just a lot of people don't know what you're doing. I go, I don't care. I'm just cutting. So I just started doing this, so people just like, what is she doing? But yeah, and then I said after that was done, I said, I just need to go home. I just need to go home. But every night, that is a ritual for me now. I just cut. It doesn't matter where I went, I just cut.
Mm. Now, if somebody wanted to put that into their daily routine, what would they need to intend or picture or so if they're wanting to
Just
cut their own cords?
they can cut the cords by having the intention of cutting any cord that they have picked up during the day.
So
Any,
should
any,
they
yeah.
like mentally picture like a knife or scissors, sharp blade, or picture untying or is it whatever works best for them?
Whatever works best for them, because, well, for me, I just picture a huge ring, because in pranic healing, we use a lot of colors, especially advanced pranic healing and pranic psychotherapy. We use a lot of colors. So green breaks up. So I just picture a huge, big, green glove on my hand. And I just cut, and I even with the intention of cutting it, inside me. Because you might be corded in your spleen, you might be corded in your liver.
Mm.
And those are the most play. That's why, if I don't know, Melissa, if you ever paid attention when I do a healing on someone, my liver is facing the client, never my spleen, because your
Oh,
spleen will cord more than your liver.
oh.
Yeah.
No, well, when you've done healing for me, it's always almost always been distant.
Mhm.
So, I can't see then, and then when you're in the room at the store with clients, like, I'm not in there going, "What you doing?" My thought would automatically be like a giant, like, bubble or ball that just kinda comes out and just encapsulates and cuts everything in one big swap, and, like, done. Um, picture some sort of, like, Iron Man reference or something, just all done, because
Mhm.
quick and go. But I can appreciate, taking the glove and, like, intentionally doing that.
Mhm.
Uh,
Or you could even envision a knife. You just envision your hand is a knife and you're just cutting the cords that you have picked up during the day.
mhm.
You can do
Or if
that.
you're old school goth girl, pretend, you're taking the cobwebs away in your dance.
There you
You're doing
go.
it. Gather the cobwebs, gather the cords, and do away with them. Um, Maria, how long have you been doing all of this healing work?
Since 1999.
It's been a minute. It
Yeah.
has been a minute. I feel like you
I had
need to
no
wait a little more.
choice.
It's only been a minute for you.
Yeah, I had no choice. It wasn't something if I had a choice, I would have could still run away.
Even now, knowing what you know, you would still run away?
No, not now, but if I had the choice back then, yeah, I would still be running away. Now, but no, I like it. I done healing with people. I notice a difference. I also, what I know we talked about attachment to results of client, but I started realizing when I have a client come in and I look into their eyes directly and I'm talking to them and doing interacting, you know, Q&A, and I look into their eyes directly, and when I'm done with the session and I look into their eyes, I knew there was a shift.
Mm,
The eyes, your eyes are your window to your soul, but your heart is your doorway. So, and the eyes is always telling with me. So I usually look at a person's eye and in the eyes, and I know if they probably are going through some emotional stuff.
mhm,
They're probably overburdened with some thoughts of decision that needs to be made, or they're struggling, they're really struggling. And a brief moment, like even especially in the psychic fair, because we don't have a whole lot of time to work with them. We just gotta get in there, do what you need to do, and I always look at the person's eyes. So that is always telling with me. I don't know what's telling with you.
a lot of body language and eyes, especially if they're looking away, if they're, like they either aren't even aware of everything, that is causing the stress for them. One of my soapbox moments, especially when it comes to the store, how people are like, "I don't know what's wrong with that person over there. Their energy is off." And I'm like, "But did you bother finding out why? Are they in grief? Do they have a
Mhm.
really bad day at work? Is their child sick? Are their parents sick, or are they themselves dealing with something? Did you find out why that energy feels heavy? Just because it feels heavy and feels weird to you doesn't mean that it's negative.
Mhm.
Go find out.
Yeah.
Uh, quit assuming that you're in a higher stance than somebody else, you know? And then there really are just some, and here's the contradiction coming in, those that need the mental health. And
Mm.
again, that's still a health thing, and trying to get clear to them and, no, not everything you see is a demon. Not everything going on is this, that, or the other thing. And there's been times where I've gotten kind of mean with some of these clients. And I'm just like, what makes you so special that Asmodeus of all demons are going to come for you, soccer mom?
Mhm.
Are you secretly leading a giant nation? Are you leading a giant, religious organization that they are coming for you? Like, stop it. Um, and that's where the tough love will kind of come in and just like, no, that's not what's going on. How about this? How about that? It's not demons in your life keeping away every significant other. It's your lack of, being able to attach to a person. It is your daddy issues. It is, it's not a
Some
demon.
underlying thing that
Yeah.
and it might go back to a child trauma,
Mhm.
something heard, done, or whatever. And and everybody has some kind of baggage, but just because they're coming in there completely lost, completely not all there, completely heavy. I mean, I have felt heavy energy, and it's sticky. It's very sticky. It's for me, it's like worse than tar. It's hard tar, and it's very sticky. And I have felt that, so I will not turn that person away unless I find out there are some other emotional issues that they need to go and see someone in the mental professional health. And that's another thing too. I'm so glad in our society now that we're not labeling, and I don't like labels. I never like labels. Labeling these people as crazy. They're
Mhm.
not. They might be going through something, or maybe there was a trauma that happened when they were younger, and they have never really or don't know how to deal with it. You
Mhm.
know, um, we had a story in pranic healing. We had a lady, my teacher, Master Stephen Cole, he had a lady that came into a class, took the class, sat in the front row with her friend out of state. He likes to bring people out and demonstrate, having the audience, someone up there and demonstrate. And he did a healing on her, and she started screaming and yelling, running around the whole entire ballroom. Didn't know what was up. He had to dismiss the students, try to get this woman calmed down. And they finally got her calmed down, and she was staying in the same place where the class was. Went upstairs. He did not think of seeing her again the next day. He did not. He just assumed that they're probably just going to leave or not come back to class. She came back. He did not recognize her. She had a child trauma that happened in front of her that was very traumatic, and she literally had to run for her life. And so when he did the emotional healing and he took that out, it just a whole rage of emotion that came through. And I mean, one of our readers, he readers, and he does healing too. He makes fun of me. He go, "How many people did you make cry today?" Crying is purging. Crying, coughing, that is purging. You're in the beginning of letting go stuff. Or maybe you might reconnect to a memory of dearly departed loved one. And that had happened to me too, where this woman, it was so traumatic for her to lose a family member that she put away stuff so she won't have the memory of it. She didn't completely grieve. So the moment that I did the reading and I started describing, and she just let go, and she yelled and cried. And to me, that is purging. That's beginning of healing.
Mhm.
It's connecting, reconnecting. So
Just because you put it in a box in the back corner of the mind doesn't mean that it's been dealt with.
yeah.
If anything, sometimes it starts to fester, that box starts to swell, that problem becomes even bigger, and it starts seeping into everything else that you're dealing with in life. Yeah, we were talking tonight about attachments and healing, be it spiritual, energetic, physical, or they don't respect your boundaries. And you have to, make sure you're staying safe energetically, spiritually, and physically. And sometimes that looks like using a professional name that's different than your personal,
Mhm.
using something like a Google phone number for your business cards so they're not blowing up your phone constantly. Um, not being able to use your name and phone number to reverse look you up and try to find where you are and find all of your private social media, using your professional name in your social media. So again, your family and friends are separate from work.
Mhm.
Um, so you can enjoy your downtime. But thanks for joining us. We will be back next Tuesday, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the PM time. You can join
Mhm.
us live, ask questions, talk with us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.